Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I'm Detective Gumshoe Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about Bad Monkey, Season 1, Episode 4. This episode is called Nothing's Wrong with It, I Just Don't Need It Anymore,
That's a great
which
title.
is a common phrase, I believe, in divorce courts, if I'm not correct. But I'm realizing now that the title is in relation to his arm, maybe? I don't
Probably.
know.
Makes
We'll
sense.
figure it out. A lot of mysteries with this show. I enjoyed this episode. This was, as the narrator pointed out in the recap, he's like, hey, the whole episode is a recap, but here's your recap. And then we go 5 years and a lot of backstory. And I enjoyed this. I think our question coming out of last episode with the big reveal was, how are we going to spend the next 10 episodes? And I thought this was a lovely time to spend episode 4 kind of revisiting all of the characters and giving us backstory.
Yeah, and this kind of gave me the same sense where this was very good episode, cool flashback, and like recontextualizes Nick as a character. You just thought he was just a terrible person murdering people for no reason, but we kind of get his understanding of why he's doing this. Not necessarily justified, but
Oh,
why
all
he's doing the
justified.
things he's
I'm a
doing.
big Nick fan after this episode.
Yeah, it's great to get Rob Delaney to just cook. He's golden. But I mean, I had the same thought about, okay, where are we going to go after episode 3? And now that we get all this backstory, where are we going to go after episode 4? It ends on certainly a good cliffhanger, but I mean, I've been digging it. Like, it's really probably diving into the books. And again, I know you've read the books, so you know some of the spoilery stuff that's going to happen. But 6 episodes left. I'm still having a great time.
Good. And to clarify, I've read one book, which was called Bad Monkey. If this is a series and like Dune or Lord of the Rings or Wool, I have not read all of those other ones. But let's dive into it and talk about the hairy arm of it all and run through. I think, Tom, the smartest thing to do is go 5 years earlier and let's talk Detective Yancey. And Tom, what's the worst outfit you've ever had to run in?
Oof, man, that's a good question. I mean, I think
We live in a hot state, so really
do.
it's anytime you've had to run in maybe jeans in the summer, something along those lines. We're not a real like windbreaker jogging suit state because it's never under 70 degrees, but a trash
a
bag?
pity. I mean, trash bag, yeah. I want to say when I was a kid, I think I put on
Allow me to guess. A suit made
No.
of banana peels?
no.
tin
What do you put
foil?
when you go scuba diving? What do you put on your feet?
A wetsuit?
No, on your feet.
Oh, on your feet. You're talking about like
Is it
flippers?
flippers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me check that again.
You don't want to keep this in?
No, I don't. I think there was one time where I was a kid and I put on like flippers when I was running into the ocean and I forgot you're supposed to walk backwards and then I just trampled and fell right on my face. So yeah, that was probably the worst thing I wore running.
Okay, all right. And now, did you ever wrestle or anything where you had to like run in a sweatsuit?
No, but I feel like it's a missed opportunity now.
Sure. I guess soccer, they don't really care what your weight is. Everyone gets to run around in fake injuries in soccer. They don't
It's
like.
true.
It wasn't like in Pop Warner football where you had to meet a weight limit. Anyways, this guy's running around in suits in Miami, which seems like almost worse than death or hell. I just can't imagine.
Watching Vince Vaughn like run in like a handful of frames was great. Like I feel like he's doing his best Tom Cruise impression. I loved it.
Do you get the sense that he played many sports other than I know he played football for Notre Dame when he was a young man
true.
with Rudy,
Rudy.
but I don't get I don't know. He's got a gait, but he's certainly running around chasing criminals. We have the introduction of the dirty cop Mendez, and this is some sort of like hotline scam.
Yeah, it was kind of an odd scam. I guess he's recruiting friends to call the crime tip line right after things are already solved to make money. It just seems like a very odd and convoluted thing to scam. But I do like we're going to go through Yancey's backstory here first about the 5 years ago. But the idea of this kind of scam paralleling what Nick and Izzy are doing, I think is good. Because again, this show is just riddled with parallels, whether it's in a specific episode or throughout the series of kind of one character doing something similar from another, like in a different time zone or whatever. It's cool.
Oh, the parallels in this episode are fascinating, and certainly like the bookends of the episode with like say her crying, like the stuff you realize whoever wrote this knows how to write a TV episode. And you're like, oh, this is what good writing looks like. This is a show I like to spend time with. Even if the mystery's kind of already, like the main mystery was already solved, we're still unraveling some things. But just very entertaining and very well done. And then it all comes back to like why this guy, you know, is now going to go after Yancey, in terms of Yancey like got him in trouble, and now like the writing is on the wall for the end of this one where Yancey is going to be wrongly accused. And so that's kind of where I'm like, okay, where are we going to spend these episodes? Well, the next 2 are going to be him on the lam, I guess, like trying to figure this out, trying to clear his name. There's 2 episodes. And so we're at 6. You know, those other 4 just wrap up, you know? I don't know. I love when he's like, Mendes is as dirty as a sock on the highway.
I like that he calls him out. Like, that's not a saying. He's like, listen, it doesn't become a saying until someone says it.
Until someone says it. It's just like, put Vince Vaughn in more TV shows where he's funny. Like, there was a time where people thought his comedy career was over. That was insane. He is so good in this. He gets sent to the Keys, which all the cops are like, oh, have fun, like being a cop in the Keys. I bet it's going to be so boring. It's kind of like, at a certain age, don't you kind of want a boring beat? I know that Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men would certainly rather be a sheriff in the Keys than trying to find page boy haircut sugar in West Texas. But I don't know. It felt like a promotion to me. We should be celebrating.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And he gets to spend time with his dad, who is an actor we all recognize, and no one could pinpoint where he was from, but he's got a prolific career. And I hope they use him more in this. I hope it's not just the speaks to magic manatees guy and disappears.
Yeah. He kind of gives us backstory, and he apparently tells his son this a lot, but I don't know, the manatee talks to him, says, follow me, I'll teach you how to let it go. And then he has this bit about telling him, like, listen to animals. They'll give you messages if you're just willing to listen. And I feel like we have seen quite a bit of a kinship with Yancey and animals, even though maybe he doesn't admit it in this scene. Like, we see him kind of saving that deer, what he's doing for the turtles going out to the ocean. So I feel like there is a kinship.
Sure. And I mean, the show's called Bad Monkey. There's a monkey prevalent in it. I would eventually think that in the middle of the show, everything's going to stop. The monkey's going to turn to Yancey and say, you had it in you this whole time. You're the true hero. And then Yancey, I don't know, is going to shoot a bunch of people, because that's how most of these things get solved. They just shoot all the bad guys. But yeah, Tom, give me your best manatee story. And please, if it's R-rated, much like Yancey asks his dad, don't bring it up. We're a podcast for children, obviously. But talk to me about all the manatees you've ridden, once again, in a purely plutonic relationship, or petted or fed.
I think we've went to the San Diego Zoo maybe and saw like a baby manatee, and it was adorable because it was a baby, but it still weighed like 800 pounds.
Sure.
I'm sure you, based on you asking me that question, I would assume you've got a manatee story.
Oh yeah, last time I was in the Keys, you could rent jet skis, and you get points for every manatee you run into. So like, obviously jet skis don't have propellers, so you're not doing any real damage, but you hit them and it's like hitting a speed bump if you're going fast enough. So that's probably the most fun I've had with manatees. In fact, I'm surprised, based on all other shows we watched, that a manatee, wasn't. I guess we got a raccoon in this one. I'm going to predict a manatee does not make it in this show, just based on how Apple likes to do their animals. But all right, let's talk Yancey and Ro. Listen, I never relate more to Ro than when I watch Ro. Just, he's unhappy. He's complaining about his ice cream. Yancey's trying to break open his shell. I love Ro. I wish we'd spend more time with him.
Yeah, and then I like back and forth about like Yancey kind of making fun of him. He's like, listen, man, I poke you in the front because I love you. It's good.
He doesn't
talk
stab
behind
him.
your back.
He doesn't stab him in the back. He's like, oh, you're going back for more ice cream? He goes back for more ice cream, comes back. He's like, what'd you get? He's like, same thing. And it's just the disappointment in Yancey is so good. Yeah. We're introduced to one Bonnie. She looks great in orange. She walks by. It's going to be trouble. I just wanted ice cream, and I wanted to spend more time with Ro. But I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this immensely, and the last clip we get with Yancey is him spending time with Bonnie, and the reminder that Cliff hit her, and that's why he ran Cliff off the dock. And we're all cut up. We get to see him be a good cop in Miami, introduce Mendez, spend some time with him and Ro, and then we're back to the present with them. And this opens up with us spending, I would say, Eve and Nick were kind of the main characters of this episode, right? And it starts with Eve, who we find out is a that's not the right term, an actress that is on her way up to being a star, right?
Yes, she wants to be a star. I love this little, I guess they're doing a monologue with a partner. I guess it's not a monologue, right? What's a duologue? What's when two people are talking?
I think it's called dialogue, Tom. It's what you and I do once a week on this podcast.
I like duologue better. But the idea
I think
of
that's an
them,
app that teach you Spanish.
It's Duolingo. But they're doing a thing from Ghost with the music going on in the background. And this sets up the premise that she cannot fake cry, which I thought was good. But then just the general idea that she just explodes at confrontation, and she's been cuckoo bananas for quite a while. And
Sure.
This isn't just something new.
Sure. Can you fake cry? Can you make yourself cry on command?
Oh, goodness. No, not at all.
No. I have a sense that if I think of the episode Cricket of Bluey, I could probably weep openly on command.
That's the one. That's one that does it for you.
It does. My kids watched it last night, and I was like, oh, this should not still affect me. I know exactly what happens in this episode, and it is brutal.
Yeah, mine's Hammer Barn. Where he buys the pizza oven.
Hammer Barn. I love it. I love it. So Eve gets kicked off of her theater team. She says some unkind things about her theater coach. This is all very funny. I have spent no time with this actress in any other show. I think she's phenomenal in this. I think she's great. The cast of the show, I just 100% big fans of. Bill Lawrence can put a show together, that's for sure.
Couldn't agree more.
Eve being upset has to then go to work, and she works where, Tom? She works at a bar.
Yeah, she's a shot girl, which I never heard this term before. But
never in my life. Never heard it. I don't even know. I'm assuming they give vaccines, which is probably why I've never heard of it. You know my stance. I'll go to a bar and I'll get alcohol, but I will not. I will not. We're going to get one of those warning labels for that joke. That was a joke. All right, let's move on. Caitlin is having a model party. She's in some sort of catalog. She brings her dad to the model party, Tom? Is this... When you go to Tom? This actually pertains to both of us, since we're both at one point paid models. Do you think you would bring your father to the model party where all the models are gathering?
Just to say, though, that story of us as male models is a story for another day. I don't know if I bring my dad. I don't know how old she's supposed to be here. She goes and starts drinking. But, I mean, if this is just a party, she's maybe getting drinks from other people, so she may not be of age to be drinking. But I think essentially this scene ends with us finding out how she started her addiction.
Sure. Here's my question. Do you think Nick invited himself along? Do you think he was like, oh, you're going to a model party, I'd like to go? Or do you think this is him being a protective father, just going with her to make sure she doesn't make any bad decisions?
I think protective father, because she was then going to go talk to people, and then she's like, oh yeah, cool, let's go talk to them. Let my mustache do the talking or something like that. So I think he was just trying to be the fun dad, but then also trying to look out for his kid.
So I wrote this in the notes, and I want to discuss this. And I think this episode actually has a lot more to it, and I like what you said at the top, where it kind of recontextualizes who Nick is as a character. Because I have a real tough time seeing Rob Delaney as a chump. He's just so smart, and he's so, sarcastic and cynical that him falling for Eve and, being in on this whole thing, it felt like before this episode, I just felt like Rob Delaney doesn't fall for the woman who quotes Twilight at the wedding, you know? Because I've seen Catastrophe, and I know who Rob Delaney is as a person based on another character he played. And so I think it is very interesting what they're doing in this, where it's He's a good dad. He's being supportive. He happens to meet Eve when they're both at kind of a weird time in their life. He's not at all like, I don't know. I would argue he's not like being creepy. He's just being like nice to Eve. He's obviously attracted to her. He recognizes her from the Avis commercial, which is obviously when you see someone from a car commercial, that's love at first sight, correct?
Yes, for sure.
Right. Eve dances, which I guess makes him fall deeper in love. I don't want to dive into that too much. I love bar yelling. I love when two people have just met and they've got to converse over. She's like, I love this song, and they're just shouting at each other.
I was thinking about that, like how the actors had to act this out during the scene because there probably wasn't music playing, but they have to scream like there is. But yeah, like I'm with you because I've seen a lot of Rob Delaney's other work, and like his mannerisms aren't drastically different from some of the other things I've seen him. Like I don't see him as like, yeah, kind of like the pushover or jump that you're kind of calling him out to be. But I think it's fun to kind of see him like create a different side of himself because he does kind of become a pushover and does everything for her. And I think she says in the scene, like she wants a beautiful and special life. And he's like, well, don't we all? And he's going to try to give it to her. But at a certain point, he does, I think it's after he's done a murder or two, he does like stand up for himself, which I appreciated, as opposed to him just being like a lapdog for Eve the entire time.
Right. I appreciated the evolution of his character in this episode, and it made more sense for other episodes where he's just like going along with Eve. And so to your point, we see Nick kiss Eve, which causes Caitlin to start to drink, which obviously alcohol is a gateway drug, kids. Don't do it. It leads to dancing, which we also know is a gateway drug. No dancing. We quickly cut to the wedding, and this was a lovely affair.
Oh, I was just so excited to see Zach Braff again. I thought we were just going to get a single episode of him. So now that we got more, I was ecstatic.
I think we did make that observation that it was poor to bring Zach Braff in and immediately shoot him in the head. So I felt the same way. I wrote somewhere in this note that just let Zach Braff and Rob Delaney do a show together where they, I don't know, play wheelchair basketball. I'm sure that's not allowed, but I don't know. I enjoyed seeing Zach Braff. We get some great wedding lines. She's like, I knew that you would give me the life that I deserved. I was like, a lot of I statements in that vow. She's like, one day you'll be a great dad. And Caitlin's like, one day?
Yeah,
I think Bill Lawrence's daughter does a great job acting in this show.
She's great.
I feel like everyone's doing a phenomenal job. We quote Twilight, which... Tom, now at your wedding, you quoted Shawshank Redemption, I think. Is that right? You said something about the hope is what kills you, I believe was what you said.
That's not what I said.
Oh, no, that's what your wife said. My bad. I forgot. Yeah.
My name is Red. I'm a guy that can get you things. No, I actually quoted, this is real life, Game of Thrones in my wedding vow. So, yeah. Twilight's not much different than.
Let me ask you, Tom. Do you regret that move in hindsight? Do you feel like you could go back and change it?
I regret nothing.
Good. Yeah, I think you quoted. You were like, a Lannister always pays his debts, and then you looked into the crowd and made eye contact with like 8 different people.
They owe me money, man.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyways, a quote of Twilight is just incredible. We have the scene with the mobile medical scam where Izzy and Nick are playing wheelchair basketball, and it's just great.
It's not wheelchair basketball. It's like mobile scooter basketball.
I'm sorry, mobile scooter basketball. I haven't spent a lot of time on them, although there's been multiple times in my life where I've looked at them at the grocery store and thought, why not me? You know? Why not I? Why can't I? I'm over here to quote Homer Simpson, I'm over here using my legs like a sucker. Why can't I ride around in the electric scooter?
I'll cut your leg off. If you want me to cut your leg off, I'll do it. I'll be your Izzy.
What body part would I give up in order to use the electric scooter at the grocery store? which I'm rarely at, by the way, so it would be a waste of a leg. Oh, but I would get to the front of the line at amusement parks, which I'm also rarely at. So I'm going to think about this plan a little bit more. The plank is played on Izzy, which I don't know what this was. I did not. It was funny. I guess I understood what they were doing, but I guess this was just them showing us that Eve is in on the crime because Izzy didn't know to begin with that she knew what they were doing. Correct?
Yeah, I think it kind of gives us. Yeah, it clearly shows us that Eve is in on the crime, and that like Nick likes to kind of bust his chops, I guess, a little bit, and maybe Eve does as well. It just kind of shows that like they're good buddies and willing to kind of play these pranks.
Such good buddies, they'd take a bullet for each other, you know?
Well, only one, though.
Good buddies. They're down in Bahama having the family vacation. We get to see Zach Braff with his family. You know, it looks like they're having a fun time on that, I don't know, paddleboard, kayak, whatever it is they're doing. Eve's pushing Nick that he needs to make more money so that they can buy property in the Bahamas, which seems like a lot. I mean...
It's a big jump.
It is a big jump to go from scamming old people to building a resort, but we all are, you know, it's typically one person in a relationship's the dreamer. The other person is like the one that doesn't dream and just is waiting for death, I guess, is essentially. One is the balloon and the other one holds the balloon down until the balloon slowly loses all of its air.
I would say one's the balloon and one's the tack.
Yeah, or the string, or the string with the tack. Yeah. And stabs.
Now, which are you again?
I think we all know. I don't think we need to. I don't think there's any guessing which tack I am. All right. They did a real quick. All of a sudden, the feds are in their building, and I don't know if I missed a narration or if I missed something. But Izzy and Nick are being investigated, and so the government wants to know where all the paperwork is. When Rob Delaney leans back and he's trying to be all casual and he's just sweating, that was a great touch. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I like the tell that it kind of gives us. But yeah, I guess the idea is they went full bore and tried to make all this extra money to buy this property that now the feds are on him.
The feds are on to him, and he wants to shut it all down, but Eve won't let him. I mean, the moral of this episode might be that even though Nick's a murderer, really, isn't it just Eve's fault in the end? Right? Right?
I don't know, man. I don't know what the law says. I'm not a lawman.
The law says women drive men to do crazy things. That's what it says, Tom. And that's what this show is teaching me. Don't come at me at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. I'm just reading what the show is telling me.
I feel this is like where we're getting like the parallels of both Nick and
Yancey's
storyline, right? Of them both doing dumb things in the name of love
issues,
or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, to your point, it was fun that they were paralleling the main characters, both past and present.
Well, I think I asked this too, like when Yancey took his car and hit Cliff or whatever, like you didn't understand, like what would really put this guy off to do this? Like it seems like a very big escalation. But again, getting the backstory, knowing that he was abusive to his wife, like it makes more sense.
Sure. There might be a couple of steps between, golf cart in the drink and assault with a car, but
he was fine.
It is Florida, as they say, so different things happen. I was a little bit surprised that Nick comes up with this on his own in order to fake his death, get the feds off of him. He's willing to give up some body parts, not all body parts, but I was interested that this was... they kind of yada-yada'd. I didn't mind it, but I did feel like Nick came in with this idea real hot. Like, once again, we escalated things.
Yeah, and I think what he says, like, oh, I'll cut off these 2 fingers. He's like, 2 fingers? That's lame. People do that to get a free cup of coffee or whatever line was. That was good. But I like how he comes up with the idea and she escalates it, and he's still on board.
Yeah. Did we already ask each other what amount of money it would take to lose an arm? Did we talk this through?
Arm. I don't know. I mean, he does what for $5 million here?
Yeah, like $5 million. It's elbow down, and as he points out later, doesn't miss it. So Although opening that bottle and pouring a glass seemed a little bit difficult. That's where I was like, no amount of
No
money.
way.
If I can't open a bottle and pour a glass, no, sir, I
Or a
will
cheeseburger.
not.
You couldn't open his cheeseburger.
That's true. He couldn't open his cheeseburger. That one I'm not as bothered by, but the bottle and the glass I was bothered by, Tom. Uh, all right. Nick calls Caitlin one last time before he's, I guess, going to fake his death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he essentially is apologizing to her, like saying, listen, I let you down. I want to make it up to you, which just seems like a goofy thing to say if you know you're going to fake your own death. And at this point, does he think that he's never going to see her again, or they're going to do this, get the insurance money, and she's going to come back into his life later on?
I think when you do something like this and you give up an arm, you're not seeing family members again. In fact, I would argue one of the fatal flaws with their plan is letting her find out he's alive, because now you have another witness. And Nikki don't like witnesses, if the show's pointing anything out. We have the arm operation, which someone in my family turned away and was like, tell me when we go back to it. And it was kind of like, this is not that kind of show. This is not Game of Thrones. We're not going to watch it happen.
I don't know. They did show a lot of blood.
Well, I mean, it's red paint on Zach Braff. This is like an episode of Scrubs, people. Come on. I love that he's playing a doctor in this. It's so much fun.
Good.
I just spend more time with these two.
Yeah, it was his line to like either Eve or Rob. He's like, listen, you're going to feel a slight tingling. And then just sauce.
Oh, man.
How is your wife with this show, can I ask? I know she's not
She's not a fan of limbs being lost. And I can tell you there's not a dollar figure in the world that she would have allowed any of this to. I don't think $1 billion is enough. So, she had to not watch several parts of this.
Mm-hmm.
But we see some quick cuts of Izzy, Zach Braff, prepping the arm, giving it to Finney. Finney's the one who put the finger up. We get all that explanation. So it was kind of nice to hash this all out.
When I like more of the backstory we're getting of Izzy, where he's doing these terrible things and like for his friend, and like meets up with Finney. They have a drink. He said, like, hey, Finney, you remind me of my son. Like they keep painting him to be a good guy. That's just, he did a terrible thing and then he kind of fell to the bottle or drugs or whatever else. So I like the way Zach Braff plays out this character.
Yeah, and it's the same thing that the narrator points out with Nick, where he's like, once you do a bad thing, it's tough to stop doing bad things. And so that's obviously been my, anytime I find myself in front of the judge, that is my plea to him.
Go-to line?
Is it's tough.
It's worked 3 times already.
That's true. All those mailboxes I've murdered with a baseball bat, and they haven't caught me yet. Good thing we record this for only 5 people, so the judge is never going to hear it. All right. We have the funny moment that brings it back to Yancey when he told Eve that her husband was dead and she couldn't cry. And I thought, this comes back again at the end. It was just... Honestly, I don't know that I related that opening scene in acting class with this moment, and then obviously the later one we hadn't seen. But I just thought this was great writing. I enjoyed it.
I thought it was good that they gave a quick cut to this, because they didn't really need to, I think, here. But then it called back to the idea of her not being able to cry.
Right.
So just quick cut was a nice little touch. Otherwise, you would have to do a rewatch to
remember that. So just good TV making all around. Eve and Nick are hanging out at, I guess, their now like Bahama kind of hideout. And Nick is saying some mean things to the Dragon Queen's Yaya. And I didn't feel like this was a smart move.
This was just so fantastic, where Yaya just starts circling him and then he just doesn't say anything, pauses, like, all right, I didn't like that.
I don't love that. Yeah. That was great.
Such a great line.
She continues.
We've watched it like 3 times. Yeah,
she just continues to threaten everyone with the circle finger. Even the Dragon Queen is like, "Stop that! Don't circle me." It was very, very fun. We have Egg is introduced, and we're going to obviously experience a lot of him cracking shells, and we find out Finney meets his demise because he continued to extort Nikki. And so
Yeah.
he asked for more money, which leads to, Tom, I know you love this book, and I knew you wanted to discuss it. Eve pointing out to Nick, have you ever read the book Give a Mouse a Cookie? And Nick's like, of course, I'm a father. And then he pauses for a beat, and he goes, why did you read it? Which, just such a great line.
It was a good line. It was funny, but I do feel like these are the books that I remember when I was a kid. Like, give a moose a cookie.
Give a moose a muffin, my friend.
Give a moose a muffin. Give a pig a pancake. Give a cat, I don't know, a shiv. I can't remember what they were all called.
A cat shiv. Brutal.
Brutal. But yeah, we've got a bunch in my kids' room, and it was funny to hear that referenced.
Yeah, no, they're great books. And I mean, Eve's response could have just been, oh, I had it when I was a kid. She's not that old. Like, yeah. But just his delivery of that line killed me. The narrator says something, or I don't think it's the narrator. I think it's Eve. She's like, all the bad stuff is over. We're going to be okay. And I just wrote, nope, a lot of bad stuff happening. Going to continue to happen. And that's where everything accelerates and we bring ourselves to... I like how the show did this. And I wonder if this show being in development for like 3 years, what they shot, what they didn't shoot, I'm assuming, like, I don't know when production was, but you can almost see, like, if they did this differently and they just did it, like, linear. Like, this episode was like, hey, you've seen 3 episodes of the front. Like, now we're giving you the kind of behind the scenes, the backstory, and now we're seeing, like, Nick in Izzy's house prior to him shooting him. I wonder if, like, the delay on this show was they didn't like how it went the first go around and someone got in there and diced it up and, like, moved some things. Because
is the book like this? Does the book jump around, or is it linear?
It's a great question. I'm pretty sure it's linear, although, you know, you get some memories or people telling stories. So I don't think it moved. Like, you certainly don't get the reveal of the arm thing like 1/3 of the way in or a quarter of the way in. That's a later reveal, a much later reveal. And I understand they have to do it for a TV show because you can't hide an arm. You can in a book, but especially if it's a big book and you cut out an arm-shaped hole, like the medical dictionary that Dwight wants for the desert island. But no, the book doesn't move in the same way. And so I think this is very clever, and once again, I just liked how this episode was done.
Well, even this whole scene of, like, Izzy going to visit Nick and him coming to him as a friend initially and, like, having the conversation, Izzy saying, hey, I didn't say anything, but then I immediately called this guy and I'm going to turn myself in.
Right.
And then realizing very quickly, oh, I should have said that. And then the narrator doing, like, the lines over them when they're both in separate rooms thinking about what they're going to do next and just hoping they don't turn all bad. And you mentioned it earlier, like, it's harder to stop than it is to just keep going. And Nick just feels like he's at a point where he's already killed somebody. He's willing to keep going, and seeing him do this to his friend, where they even, like, give themselves those lines that they had from, I don't know what
Trading
old show.
Places.
Yeah, they were Trading Places lines back and forth. It was brutal, like, and it was done incredibly well.
Feeling good, Lewis, I believe is one of the lines. Yeah. As a young man, I stumbled upon Trading Places, and I had a certain affinity for it. I won't expand, but Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, very funny. And Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. I'm sure you've seen it, Tom, so I don't have to tell you the whole plot. But there is a part where one of the characters is looking for a buffalo herd. And he stumbles across.
Don't you dare.
I won't do it. I won't do it. Now's not the right time. I love Zach Braff. I think he plays this character so well, like the regretful, like he's stressed because he knows the feds are coming after him. Now a food cop, as he keeps saying, is investigating him. He knows his friend is, like, committed murder and is probably going to kill him. He, like, purposely doesn't look at him. I don't know. I felt like Zach Braff. I'm so glad he was in this. And once again, I hope this was not the last episode that we see him in, but it may be.
It probably will be. Yeah, he plays a good, like, disheveled, like, with kind of that 5 o'clock shadow and wearing the robe for much longer than he probably should be. It was good.
Yeah.
Now, you made mention in the outline here, so he kills him, and then does Nick purposely hang up the poncho as a means to try to like frame him here?
Yeah, so if you notice, when he is in that bathroom, he pulls out the orange poncho and he hangs it on the inside of the door of the bathroom.
I think I missed it.
He then shoots him and I believe leaves the gun, and so now both the gun and the poncho connected to Finney's murder will put it on Izzy, and therefore he's in the clear. So, well... Yancey's not in the clear, though, because Yancey, stepping out of the door, turns to a witness and says, "Have you seen anyone leave this place recently?" And he's like, and the witness
Only
is
you.
like, "You? Only you?" And I'm like, "Oh."
Well, that's what's interesting about this sequence, right? Because, like, essentially multiple people are being framed for this same murder. Like, Nick is trying to frame Izzy for it, but Yancey is going to seem like he did it, but there's already evidence that Izzy did it, so it's going to be tricky.
Right, which leads to the importance of the now detective Mendez, who wants to get Yancey back, and the witness identifying him. I love this moment where he's like, "I've got heat tickets," and they're like, "No, you need to talk to this witness," and he goes in, and it's just like sweet, sweet revenge. I don't want to move too fast because an important scene, and I did not see this coming. I don't think this is in the book. The weather lady, Heather the weather lady. I did not. I'd forgotten about this story point in the show, and I like what they do here. It's like Nick is getting mad at Eve because he's the one that's making all of the sacrifices. He had to kill his best friend. Like, this is a great moment. They're in a parking garage yelling at each other.
Yeah, and he's, like I said earlier, he's finally standing up for himself and saying, like, I can't keep doing this. Why am I doing this? Like, I shouldn't be doing this for you to make you quote unquote happy. Like, it's crazy.
It feels like you win every relationship argument if you've given up an arm for your future, right? That's kind of one you like. You just kind of wave it and you're like, no, we're getting pizza. Like, I don't care. Pizza tonight. Do you see this arm? Oh, are you going to feed me my sandwich? You know what I can eat with one hand? Pizza. You know why I have to eat with one hand? Because I gave up an arm for you. Checkmate. That's how you win in that relationship, by the way.
It's one of the reasons I never wave to strangers, because, like, what if they only have one hand and I want to seem cocky?
That's a good point. That's strong. Strong argument. You guys can reach Tom at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. He will respond with his...
I stole that one.
Mitch Hedberg. Nice. Nice. All right. Heather the Weather stumbles into this conversation, and cold-blooded Eve. Cold-blooded.
Man, yeah, this was very, very cold. You knew Heather was going to be in it in some form or fashion, right? Because they featured her too many times on the TV screens from characters in bars or coffee shops, wherever it was. So to see her just kind of get taken out, like, it was brutal. But, I mean, I don't know. They tried to soften it maybe in the previous episodes by showing Heather was kind of a jerk to Rosa's sister.
Yeah. I mean, murdering mean people's okay. I think we've all got it, show. Thank you. Yeah. And also this allows for Rosa's sister to take over, which I believe I mentioned. And once again, this is not a book thing. I just hoped that she got her shot. And so she does get her shot in order to
goodness. Be... Listen, we'll get to it. My wife was none too pleased about the idea of the sister just immediately stepping in for the weather woman.
Oh, that's right. And we should tell people that your spouse has some experience, a lot of experience in local news. So should we allow this to be the news corner where we air our grievances? Do we walk up the stairs and go into the corner right now, Tom?
Oh, it was fantastic. I think the first part, she was very upset when they first introduced the sister as like the makeup person for Heather the Weather. Like, even in a market like Miami, you are not getting a person to do your hair and makeup. It just doesn't exist. You do your own.
Sure.
So she was very upset about that. And then the idea of the person that does the hair and makeup coming in, not being a meteorologist, like not doing anything or knowing how to stand in front of a green screen and do everything. it boiled her blood, and it was funny. But I appreciate her knowing all the inside outs.
That's where she was out on the show. I can't imagine her thoughts on Heigl's position in Knocked Up and how she takes over in front of the camera in that movie. So a lot of thoughts on the news. I appreciate it. That has been the News Corner with Tom's spouse. And we now go to, I'll throw it to you, Tom. We now go to Roe talking with Mendez over the phone and how he can now close the case because Izzy did it. And we kind of went over this because it gets reopened with the witness later.
Yeah, and I found this interesting scene because I'm still a little bit suspect of Roe and the way he's been kind of handling the present and Yancey and everything else that's kind of going on, of him trying to sweep some of the stuff under the rug. But the way he kind of pushes back at Mendez, like he does seem to have Yancey's back a little bit more. So I thought that was interesting. I'm still a little bit weary of him, but he definitely did come to his aid a bit.
Sure. You're suspicious of Roe, and I think Roe's just got great taste in ice cream. Great taste in men, great taste in ice cream. That's what I have to say. I wrote that Nick and Caitlin, I don't know where we're at in the story. When are these two talking?
I think they had a little walk on the beach because this was like after he had kind of come back and they were in the present, and it kind of gives them a little touching moment to kind of be on the beach and just kind of be father and daughter again and kind of reconnecting.
Do we need to talk about these characters like it's dark matter, where this is one-armed Nick, and then in the past it's two-armed Nick, and you have to say two-armed Nick. You can't just say Nick. It's two-armed Nick and one-armed Nick. So this is one-armed Nick talking with Caitlin after she finds
Caitlin.
out. And we, at some point during this, we found out that Caitlin met this gentleman from church, and he helped her get clean. I'm waiting for this show to turn the church guy bad. Thus far, he seems to be an okay fella, which is great. This all leads to, speaking of great fellas and great gals, Rosa and Yancey, which not a lot of Rosa in this episode. A little disappointed. I love spending time with Rosa. But we have some popsicles and some murder-suicides, and then very quickly we waste the popsicles by throwing them in the trash can. It doesn't take that long to finish a popsicle. Like, tops. Like, if you know what's happening at the end of the popsicle, or when 30 seconds. Just finish the popsicle. I don't know. This seemed like a waste of popsicles to me.
They already cut it in half. Like, yeah, you can just take a couple bites, get a quick brain freeze, and then do your business.
Right. You're gonna make the same noises as having brain freeze as what's happening after the popsicles. So I don't.
Yeah. If anything, it just increases the pleasure.
Sure. Oh.
I do like Rosa's line though, where it's like, it's sexy for a man to be honest. So, all the men out there, take note. Be honest to people.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, everyone else, I disagree with Tom. He can't hear me, but lie through your teeth, okay?
What was that?
Oh, nothing. I was just whispering that you should lie through your teeth until you have the person entrapped, and then slowly deflate them like a balloon.
Okay. Good
Be
to know.
their string.
There's two different paths you can take, and I chose the honest path, but you know what? To each their own.
Yeah, the crooked path, better views. That's all I'm going to say. We find Rosa. She gives her backstory that she had a crappy fiance who lied and was not a good fella. This is just, this relationship developing. I am firmly against stainless steel tables and all of the, give or comfort level they have. Also, probably super cold. So I'm 2 thumbs down on stainless steel medical tables in this type of situation. Tom, your thoughts?
Yancey tried to get a change of venue, but she wasn't having it. So.
That's true. He was also staring at the waste basket and the popsicle that was just melting. And you could see
the mango flavored too. How do you do that to a mango flavored popsicle?
I don't know. Those are tough to get.
Gum, but
you got to have a mango flavored popsicle guy in order to get mango flavored popsicles. That's not something you just go to your local Fry's or Safeway and pull. No. You gotta find those. Those you find in like a gas station, in an in between place, in one of those like bins. and the language on them is typically not English, but they're delicious, absolutely delicious. We're back on the beach. We've got Eve and Nick arguing over Caitlin. And did you get the sense that Eve wants Nick to kill his own daughter? Because that's kind of where Nick draws a line in the sand.
I don't know. I mean, everything Eve has been doing is like, yeah, get rid of these loose ends, get rid of these loose ends. So for her to kind of insinuate this, like I get Nick getting very furious and like telling her like, yeah, go on. What do you want? Do you want me to kill my own daughter? It got heavy quick, but then she does like give her all the Oscars. She actually starts to cry, and I like how Nick is like watching this, and then once the tear falls down her cheek, she's like, "Oh my God, honey, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were telling the truth," or whatever. It was good, and you can even hear like the faint ghost music playing in the background, which I thought was a nice touch from the beginning.
Tom, it's maybe late in the episode to admit this, but I've never seen Ghost. Have you seen Ghost?
Oh, dude, Ghost. Demi Moore, Patrick Swayze. It's so fantastic. Watch it, man.
Yeah,
and
Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, I know who's in it. I know what it is. There's the pottery scene, I've seen them reenact it in Community, in that episode of Community with Buster from Arrested Development. Where he's got a big sign that says no reenact. It's the ceramics class, and there's a big sign that says no reenacting Ghost, and it's got a big X over Patrick Swayze, and everyone gasps when he goes, "It was before he died." Community's incredible.
I remember watching it when I was younger and very, very much enjoying the movie. I don't know how it would hold up nowadays, especially like some of the CGI-ness, but I remember it being very, very good, and a brutal finish that still haunts me to this day.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I have never seen it. I'm assuming it's where the line "no one puts baby in the corner" is from.
I don't think so.
But I could be wrong. I'll give it a go right when we're done recording. I'll go throw Ghost on.
Please.
And I'll email you my thoughts at teambingepodcast@gmail.com.
You're going to email yourself?
Well, maybe you'll answer one. Who knows? This episode ends. I like this. Witness reports Yancey. We've got Mendez involved. We're leading to Yancey framed, running from the law, trying to clear his name. I'm going to say the next 2 episodes. That's my prediction.
Yeah, and I like the idea that Yancey kind of puts this together by seeing the CGI deer, which is very, very CGI'd. But it being
because it's missing a leg,
one, right? Yeah, it was the one that he took to the veterinarian to kind of get help. And again, it's essentially like an animal talking to him. Like if he's willing to listen, he kind of then puts it together that Nick and Christopher are the same person. And then not 2 seconds later, does Nick come and just bang him in the head with a tire iron.
That's right. It ends with violence. It always ends with violence. So
no gun, though.
No gun. Yeah, just blunt force trauma to the head. I'm sure he's okay. He's not in concussion protocol or anything like that. We've given up our hand, Tom. I enjoyed this episode. I'm looking forward to the next. I don't have any big predictions. The mystery of the show is how are we going to spend the next episode? And thus far, they have not done us wrong. So I'm not going to complain. We're moving at a nice clip. Just give me more Zach Braff. Let me spend some time with Rob Delaney. The woman who plays Eve is very funny. And as she spirals into a murderess, I'm enjoying that. I'd say we could spend more time with the weather woman, but I think Heather is... I think this was her last blizzard. No, this is her last hurricane. This is... Jimmy, just insert something clever about weather, and she was a storm that disappeared, like an Arizona desert rain. She's now gone. Just use whichever one works best, Jimmy. Thanks.
Do we know what the Rosa sister's name is? I'm assuming it's like Bornado or Lightning, something that rhymes with a weather event.
Yes, definitely. Yes, her name is Bylon, which, for those of you that don't know, rhymes with cyclone.
Not even close.
No, it's not. I think I was thinking of Cylon. The Battlestar Galactica bears and beats on the brain. Sorry, Tom.
Oh, so great.
All right. For those of you... Go ahead. Yeah.
No, before we jump out, again, couldn't agree more. The episode was fantastic. When they first started doing this backstory stuff, I was like, ugh, I don't know if I'm going to want all of this, but watching Rob Delaney just be Rob Delaney for an entire episode is great. Just like Vince Vaughn is doing Vince Vaughn, Rob Delaney's doing himself, and it's great. I want more of it.
Yeah,
but we didn't get
funny
much.
People be funny is a good show. Like,
who would have thought?
People take note.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't get much. Like, we got a quick shot of Neville and the Dragon Queen and kind of what's going on in their storyline in the Bahamas, but we stayed very much away from that in this episode. So we'll be interested to kind of go back to that, because I do think there's a lot of foreboding and foreshadowing with what they have said previous that I'm assuming is going to start kind of hitting the fan.
Yeah, I think Yaya. I think there's more to develop with Yaya and all of her circling and all of her threats. So I am excited. Tom, let us, as you said, jump out of this. For those of you that are still with us, thank you for listening. You can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. If you've got suggestions of shows that are like this that you've enjoyed or are enjoying, we always like recommendations. If you have something that we missed, a critical detail, we're more than happy to discuss it on the pod. If you would please, you can rate and review us at Apple Podcast or Spotify, I believe. And we also have T-shirts somewhere, but you have to find them. They're on the internet. And
they're scattered throughout the internet. There's 5 of them. You have
to be some sort of detective, Miami detective Yancey, in order to find them. Good luck.
But yeah, you can follow us on the Instagrams and the Twitters at Team Binge or Team Binge Podcast. Like Julian said, let us know what you think. For those of you who have read the book, don't spoil it. Don't be a jerk. And yeah, can't wait for more, man. Again, 4 episodes in. We know it's 10, so excited to see where they take it.
Yeah. All you literate people, don't be mean to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. For Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And I am illiterate Tom. Till next time, everybody.